It's raining outside. You can see my breath here in the garage. It is now a typical spring in Minnesota. I'll tell you what, we were on the water this weekend a handful of times this week. Highs and lows again. I mentioned yo-yo weather last week. We saw it again. I was on the water trying to think. Thursday it was supposed to be 70. I think the air temp was 70. It blew 20 to 30 miles an hour the entire time, and we were out there dressed like it was fall. Water temps did warm up at that point, though. We did see water temps jump into the mid-50s. Yesterday on Saturday, it rained the first hour on us, stayed pretty cold and damp. I didn't listen to my own advice about staying warm with your clothes because I didn't wear much underneath my rain bibs and rain jacket other than a pair of light sweats and a hoodie, and it was cold. So there was a period of time where, yeah, I got a little chill to the bone. However, the fish were snapping. The fish were biting so good yesterday and today that you didn't realize the cold as much. It's amazing how much, even in the ice fishing season, we forget about how really cold it is, hence why I get frostbite from time to time. When the bite's good and you're catching fish, your adrenaline's pumping, you're out there, you're having fun, you're having a good time. That's kind of what it was like this weekend. I kind of ignored the elements. I did have my Blackfish Aspire rain suit on both days. I did bundle up a little more today than I did yesterday and stayed warmer. It was nice, stocking cap even. No shame in your game. Stay comfortable, stay dry, stay warm, stay effective. That's the name of the game. Okay, enough about the weather. We could talk about the weather the entire episode every week. We're not going to do it. We know what to expect. We know how to handle it. You know what I'm about to say, so I'm not even going to say it. Just go out there, go fishing. So let's talk about the bite. The bite right now, I'm going to talk specifically on crappies. Now, next week, I'm going to go into Wisconsin. I'm going to chase some bass, maybe some walleyes. It's the Wisconsin fishing opener next weekend, which happens to be on my birthday, May 4th. I'm pumped up. I'm going to head into Wisconsin, chase some fish that weekend with the family, hang out, have a good time. But we'll talk crappies right now because that's what I'm focusing on. It's been a great bite, I'll tell you what, and it's been abnormal. You've heard me talk about Main Lake weeds, and I get asked a lot when I reference that on any of my social media posts. Main Lake weeds, what does that mean? Everyone thinks, let's say Tonka, for example. Everyone thinks when I say that I mean Main Lake, like the big body of water, get out there in Wayzata Bay or north of Big Island or the big expansive part of the lake. No, what I mean by Main Lake is on any specific portion of Minnetonka, whether it's Cooks Bay, North Arm, Maxwell, whether it's St. Albans, whether it's, let's go over to Grays, any bay, I'm just talking holistically, that I'm not tucking up against the docks, I'm not tucking up into a boat channel, I'm fishing weeds out in the main lake or the main portion of the lake. So if you hear me talk about Main Lake weeds on any body of water, Chisago, Clearwater, Forest Lake, East and West Rush, Minnetonka, Waconia, it doesn't matter, and I say Main Lake weeds, that's what I'm referencing. So when I say Main Lake weeds 5 to 8 feet, I am not tucked in, obviously up against a dock line of 5 to 8 feet of water. I am not back in a boat harbor. I am out on the main lake targeting fish in what I am considering Main Lake weeds, and oftentimes that's milfoil, some type of grass, coontail. Right now, the best spots, I'm going to tell you, are milfoil, and what we're seeing this season different than any other season, where a lot of anglers are really going into these channels and lighting up fish, and then they're coming out saying a lot of small ones. A lot of the better sized fish just stalled out in these Main Lake weeds. But I think what had happened is with the winter we had, or lack thereof, excuse me, our weeds stayed pretty strong. I mean, they didn't dissipate like they normally do, or brown and down, dead and dying. So when we had such a poor winter, poor ice season, poor amount of snow, but ample light and oxygen and all the different nourishments flourishing, whatever it is, the weeds kind of stayed. And what I'm seeing is a lot of the better fish are just, they're staying there. And I think they're gonna stay there because I'm catching females, I'm catching males, already some males darkening up out in these Main Lake weeds. It's no longer what I consider a staging mechanism this season. Now next year could be different, but this year I think what's happening, these fish are now, they're actually going to occupy those spots probably for the coming weeks, probably spawn in those spots. And sometimes on any year those spots do get used for spawning crappies, but I think you're going to see a little bit of a pendulum swing this season on what these fish do. I've seen it very consistent now for 2 weeks. I have not had to even go back into a boat channel, boat harbor, boat dock. Now, I'm not saying you can't go in there and crack a giant crappie. Sure, but the more consistent, better sized fish on every lake I fish, and I fished multiple lakes in the last couple weeks, are all sitting out in those main lake weeds. And we are seeing water temps in the upper 50s, so it's not the thing where you're like, oh, it's still pretty cold, they haven't moved in. No, they're going to stay there, and they're going to stay there, I think, for the time being and for future to come. So that's my assumption. That's what I'm seeing. We caught an insane amount of fish in the last 2 trips. We combined for 300 crappies. That's not a brag. That's just telling you that they are stacked up in these spots. It's not a fluke here or there. And we're not even touching all the spots I want to hit in a given day, because we get to spot 1 and catch 40, get to spot 2 and catch 50, and we're just crushing them. I mean, so I'm not having to like boom, 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 trying to find these fish. So it's exciting. It pumps me up. It's easier to fish those spots when I have clients in the boat where they're not trying to cast right next to a specific dock or a specific piece of structure. It's just fan cast in this area, and they're here and they're moving. And if they're not in the weeds, they're right off them in like 7, 8, 9 feet of water. And if I pan up with my active target, it's just like, whoa, they're stacked up. And a lot of boats are just ripping around past me on the body of water we fished yesterday on Saturday. It was comical with my client and I, because we were fishing main lake weeds and we could see the access in the distance, and the small amount of boats we actually did see all day launched. And I know where these back boat channels are in the specific lake, and every single one of them full send all the way back to the boat channels, all the way back, didn't even hesitate. And we were the only boat, I'm not exaggerating, the only boat other than one that we saw for about 20 minutes fishing anywhere in sight, and I can see almost the entire lake, main lake. We were the only one. And Mike caught 124 crappies and a bunch of nice ones. So that's my advice, is to get a little more adventurous this year. Totally get, if your goal and your outcome is just to catch a bunch of fish, you don't care about the size, the shallow back boat channels and harbors and things are probably loaded. I just have not gone into one yet to tell you whether or not, and that's rare for me on April 28th to have said that. So how are we catching these fish? That's another thing. We caught them really good on hair. My kids are tying hair jigs. You guys and gals all know that. I'm using the VMC Moon Eye. I'm using the Clam Drop TG, 1/32 ounce, and they're tying. They're going to the Flying Lure at Thorne Brothers, and they're buying all their stuff, and they're having a ball tying jigs. And we caught a bunch of nice fish. Probably some of our better fish. I know earlier in the week, my clients on Thursday, like 3 of the 5 biggest fish we caught were on a tied hair jig. Otherwise, if it's not a hair jig, we're catching them really heavily on that sassy sting from Mr. Twister. This is just your minnow bait. I don't know if you can see that, if it shows up good. I'm showing you this specific color because this color right here happened to be what we pounded them on this weekend. This is called Grenada Gold. It's kind of a new penny. It's basically your orange with gold fleck. This pounded them. I got a picture of a fish that ate this. I don't know, I think I caught personally 40 or 50 crappies on this exact color. I'm using a 1/32 ounce drop TG jig head. I used the orange and chartreuse jig head to match it up. That color was awesome. You've heard me talk about Vegas, and I get messaged, what the heck is Vegas? Well, Vegas is this guy right here. That's your purplish pink. It's kind of a nice blend of dark purple into a speckle pink body. Put it against my hand so you don't have the natural light showing you. Vegas is awesome. I mean, we caught them on everything. We caught them on black and chartreuse. We caught them on pearl, whiter chartreuse. This color's kind of cool. I've done well on this. It's called bluegrass. It's kind of a chartreuse blue speckle. I mean, okay, you can go onto the website, Mr. Twister, and you can see that they have like 40 different colors of these minnow baits. On any given day, I just had this conversation with my clients this weekend. It might not even matter what color you throw at them. And we proved that yesterday because Mike and I were just literally trying to see what they wouldn't bite on. Brown hair jigs, white plastic, pink plastic, chartreuse hair jig, parrot hair jig, black plastic, purple plastic. You get the drift. Boom, boom, catch. So when the fish are firing and they're where they are, get out of your own head. Don't worry about the color as much. Just present the bait to where the fish are and get after it. Now, we were fishing these presentations under floats a lot of the weekend and week. Rocket bobbers, we can cast them. We are dealing with wind. It's just the nature of the beast. Every day it's been windy. Some days less, but always windy. So the rocket bobber's been awesome. A lot of up bites. That rocket bobber kind of floats. Sometimes it gets into position, not always indicating a bite, contrary to popular belief. But what always indicates a bite, with that 1/32 ounce on the ultralight rocket bobber, will set that bobber because of its weight. And 90% of our crappies are coming up and they're eating it. And that bobber always goes. And you don't even need to, you can reel up and set the hook, and I guarantee you that there's a fish eating that presentation unless you snagged a weed. So second I see that bobber floating, and I do the two-tone, I got chartreuse and orange, or orange, whatever, orange chartreuse two-tone conflict, so you can see, focus on that color that's up top, you get used to that. Mine chartreuse, orange on the bottom, and the second that lays flat, I see a ton of orange, and I set the hook and reel up. So that's been effective. We have just pitched them under a plain jig head, caught some fish on that. We've been more effective, probably 4-to-1 fishing them under a float. So, and we're fishing about 3-4 feet down, because even in 5-6 feet of water, they're kind of running that same depth. And even in 8 feet of water, 3 feet down, they're suspended a couple feet at the bottom, just schooling up. So minnow bait working exceptionally well. We caught some fish on tubes. We didn't fish a lot of twister tails this week. There wasn't a piece of live bait that entered the boat. This is honestly how we did it, how we caught most of our fish. So this coming week, I'm excited. I think I saw 72 degrees on Tuesday. So might warm up a bit. It's going to rain all day today, it looks like. It's going to rain probably tomorrow. Looks like more rain's coming back on Thursday and Friday and Saturday. So it just is what it is. I just made a post saying you can't catch them from the couch. I firmly believe in that. You got to get out there, and you can't be a fair weather angler if you want to have continued success. So good quality rain suit, layer up. Don't listen to my advice for yesterday, but layer up. Get a good pair of gloves. The Air gloves from Blackfish are awesome. They're waterproof, they're comfortable. You can fish in them. Throw a beanie on. Little things like that just to keep your core warm. I love my vest. I'll even throw it on underneath like this and then throw my rain jacket over the top to keep my core, everything warm. It's also nice because I got zippable pockets in here for things to store. So just simple things like that. Hand warmers. No, the same thing we use ice fishing, those shakeable hand warmers. Throw them inside the pocket of your rain jacket. It's amazing how just that little bit of taking the edge off your hands makes a big difference to keep you on the water and catching fish. So that's what I got. Get out there, have fun. It is the end of April. The next time I come at you, it'll be after the Wisconsin fishing opener. It'll be May. It'll be game fish season starting to tiptoe on us in Minnesota, happening in Wisconsin. So there's a lot of good things happening in the coming weeks. So otherwise, get out there, have some fun, be safe, set some hooks for me. Get a kid out fishing, take your dad, mom, grandma, grandpa out fishing too. Show them a good time and enjoy the sport with everyone and anyone. So good luck this week. Be safe.